Well, welcome everybody to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette, and we're so glad you're with us to stay curious with the Steven-Boniecki's beside me. Did I do that
You
good?
did it right.
All right.
You were
Dwight
nice.
and Alexandria here.
That's right.
Boniecki, they are documentary makers of Searching for Skylab, have popped in here for a big deal that we're going to do tomorrow with 2 Apollo astronauts. But we wanted to welcome them to America. You came here from where? You live where?
We live in Cologne, Germany. We arrived on Monday evening. It's an 8.5-hour flight from Frankfurt to New York, 2 hours in New York, and then 3 hours to get down to Titusville, going through Orlando Airport. And I can tell you with 100% honesty, we were dead to the world on Monday. And yeah, yesterday, finalizing everything. We wanted to come to the museum yesterday. Unfortunately, time just didn't allow us to. Sorry about that.
Well, and hello to you, Alexandra.
Thank you.
Cologne is the headquarters of ESA, that in Bonn, right?
Near the airport, near Cologne Bonn Airport, there is the ESA facility, and every 2 years they have an open day. We went there in 20, and
yeah, right.
You get to see, they have
Recently.
a neutral. Yes, they had color television back then. They have the neutral buoyancy facility for the ISS work, so they train the astronauts there to do
cool.
the EVA work.
Yeah.
They have mock-ups of the ISS. It's all ESA stuff. To be perfectly honest, it was quite a while ago. I can't remember too much.
Well, that's my way of acting like I know what's going on over in Germany. Okay, we've got Alex Carls and ESA Capcom that we've had on the show before, here live and in there. This couple have done this wonderful documentary that is the definitive really documentary on Skylab. Our friend Emily Carney of Space Hipsters is the technical advisor on that. And if you haven't signed up, it's probably too late. But you have to be in line by 11:45 to get an autograph from these legends, Jack Lousma, of course, and let me make that bigger there. Rusty Schweickart. Rusty's 90, 91, Jack's 87. These
Rusty
guys
is
aren't going to be
88.
88. And they're not going to be autographing much longer, all right? This is a big deal for us, thanks to our Anita Truex here.
Yes, thank you, Anita.
Thank you, Anita.
So how'd this happen?
Had the documentary.
How'd this fall into our lap, folks? No, that we have this event tomorrow, and then we'll talk about your documentary.
I think just Dwight had an idea to come by here, and he just saw.
We visited Florida in 2011 in January, and Alex was on business in Miami, and I was allowed to come with her as her partner. And I said to her, "Hi, I'm going up to KSC, whether you like it or not." So I rented a car and I drove the 300 miles or however far it is from Miami.
Yeah.
And I came here, and I remember I called her the day after I visited Kennedy Space Center. I said, "You have to come here next time." And her job allowed her to go back to Germany, and I came again the second time with her. And that time we got straight off the plane and drove up to Titusville. We stayed in a hotel just near the motorway, and then we came across, and again you were closed. So we missed the opportunity back then. I thought the next time I am in Titusville, I am going to knock on the door, and I'm going to make sure I get in. And as it happened, in May, we were here for the SMEET Skylab 50th anniversary, as organized by the Astronaut Scholarship Foundation. And on the couple of hours where I had a moment free, I came in here and started speaking to Anita, and I said, we've made this movie, and she didn't know me from an ordinary Joe off the street going, "Okay, who's this guy?" I said, "Take the film, proof's in the pudding, have a look at it if you like it. Let's talk about you having the film on site for sale." And I remember
the only people in America at the time to have it for sale.
Yeah,
Right?
Yes.
exactly.
Yes. Retail.
Yeah, it's very exclusive to here.
And you sold out.
Yes,
within,
you sold out
within
within
I
2
think,
weeks.
2
And we're like,
weeks.
wow, that's pretty cool. By the way, before I forget, Tom Usiak and Mark Usiak, hello.
Hello. Yeah.
And Mum, you're watching as well from Australia, so Yay!
Where's your mom in Australia?
She's in Tamworth, New South Wales. That's out in the country. That's 450. Oh, sorry, I'm speaking kilometers now. Apologies to all the Americans watching. 450 kilometers northwest of Sydney.
Well, we've got Cliff Watson watching in Pomona, Australia.
There you go.
Which is on the north of the center of the state on the east coast, or state, the country on the east coast, right?
Cool.
You've been there.
Hello.
Yeah, hello to Cliff Watson, great supporter there. I didn't want to get away from Anita Truex without thanking her.
Yes.
This is typically what Anita does, Dwight, is just engages people, finds out a little bit about them. There's rarely a day that goes by that she doesn't say, Mark, you got to meet this person. They twisted the bolts on something on the shuttle or something, and we're grateful for that. And Anita, thank you for all you do here. She's a senior citizen that loves working and loves helping out here, and you've met her. And Alex,
Wonderful
before we
person.
get too far away,
Yep.
in Skylab, tell us, you've been around our museum here for a few hours. What do you think of our humble little museum here?
Well, I am always amazed by everything that is space related, and it's all because of him. I was never a space fan. I am becoming a space fan, and he's kind of pulling me
Good
in,
job,
and very
good
happy
job,
about that.
working on her.
So
Does she allow
everything-
any Skylab photos in the living room or anything like that now?
She has no choice.
Oh, I remember an astronomy friend of mine, like 30 years ago, said, my wife is letting me put my NASA patches up in the living room for a while.
Very much like that. Very much like that. I pushed him into his room. I said, okay, you take one room. This is yours. You do with it whatever you like, but no living room space. But
Well, I
don't
always
last
felt like
more
our
than 5
museum, the
minutes.
first time I saw it, was like a great space cave, a
Right.
man cave of
Yes,
space
yes.
stuff, and because it's intimate and so forth. And
We know this. The men, we know this, don't we? We know it's a man cave with space.
yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. Well, we're talking to Dwight and Alexandra Steven-Boniecki, and they are the director and producer of Searching for Skylab. How can people buy this that can't come to our museum?
They can order it online.
And where would be the online
That is www.searchingforskylab.com.
searching for? All right, we'll promote that after your visit here. So, hadn't said hello to Marty Winkle, my co-producer, almost for 3.5 years, over 420 episodes. Marty, great to have you back in the saddle. Selvin Trotter did an excellent job the last 2 days pinch hitting for you, but always glad to have my buddy Marty behind there. We got some people watching today. Marty, if USIAC comes back with a quip or something, let us know there. So
Well, Tom came back with a hello, Dwight and Alexandria, and Mark is watching also.
Oh, cool.
Cool.
good.
We used a couple of their photos. They graciously allowed us to use their photos in the film, and there's 2 of Alan Shepard when he's. We've got the audio of him giving the final Skylab crew a bit of a grilling because they kept Bill Pogue's space sickness quiet from the ground, and we used the photos that they took of Al Shepard in Mission Control.
Sweet. We're going to see some of Tommy's photos of the S1B, S4B on the launch of that, the last time we did that. Just wanted to, again, reiterate, this is an excellent documentary. I watched it once and trying to get through it a few more times because it's one of those things you pick up stuff every time. Is all 9 Skylab astronauts interviewed?
Unfortunately, no. Pete Conrad
Yeah,
had
Pete.
perished before we even had the
In
concept of
1999,
making-
yeah.
I don't mean to sound morbid, but we had a discussion before this was even an abstract idea, and I said we have to do this now because these guys aren't immortal.
Right,
And
right.
We interviewed Paul Weitz,
Uh-huh.
and 6 weeks later he passed away.
Oh,
And
my.
I'm pretty sure we got his last interview, and I'm thinking we at least preserved his recollections of how they rescued Skylab
Right.
for the ages now. And Bruce McCandless, the second as well, we got one of his last interviews. He died 6 months later.
My.
And I was like, well, I didn't want the film to
backup
be
for
that,
Skylab.
but he was part of the backup crew. Rusty Schweickart was the backup commander. and Bruce developed the MMU, which they tested on Skylab, the jetpack that they used on the shuttle missions. That he actually was the first one to test in outer
Yes.
space.
Tell us a little bit about the process before I get into some of these pretty pictures here. How long how long was this? Several years to do it? You sat down interviewing people.
Yeah,
It's hard to keep the same equipment consistent and so forth when you're spread out over years. Is my what I'm driving at. So, what was the labor behind all this?
This goes back already to 2004 thereabouts, where I was doing a book called Live TV from the Moon. And I wanted to know, as a person who works in television, how did they get the signal from the moon back to our living rooms back in '69? And I was talking to a gentleman called Stan Labar, who was the head of the Westinghouse Lunar Camera Division. And I was on the phone to him every second, third day for at least 3 hours. And that would be in Germany, that would have been, midnight to 3 in the morning. And he would always start by saying, Apollo was fantastic, but we got really good with the television on Skylab. And I'm thinking, Skylab, I remember as a 10-year-old, that thing crashed into Australia, my homeland.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying that was better for television than Apollo? I'm thinking, okay. And I was lucky enough about a year and a half later to get a batch of VHS tapes with all the mission audio, the mission video, sorry, on them. And it was all haphazardly recorded, but they had the slate in front. So it would say, day of year, 365, GMT, blah, 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 and TV number and whatever. And so I went and just sequentially ordered all these films together for the follow-up book, Live TV from Orbit, where I wanted to talk about post-Apollo, what they did for television there. And as I'm watching this footage, I'm thinking, whoa, yeah, Stan was not wrong. They had multi-cameras. They could switch between the cameras up on Skylab. First time they ever did that in space. They wanted, and this is one of the ideas, I thought, pity it never happened, because of the parasol taking up the scientific port. It was originally designated to also have an extendable boom with the camera mounted on the boom. So if you could imagine here the bottle Skylab, the camera would have stuck out like that and been able to shoot back down a TV picture of Skylab. And that would have been fantastic.
Wide angle with the Earth behind.
That would have been amazing. And the Skylab in itself falls in the shadow of Apollo and therefore gets very easily forgotten, because people go, wow, we went to the moon in the Earth orbit. And when you look at the science they did up there, I remember my favorite sequence of the entire Skylab program is where Bill Pogue has the 3 spheres and he's showing orbital mechanics. What happens when they adjust the orbit of Skylab? You see the balls moving upwards relative to where he's sitting, and I remember looking at that going, why didn't they show me that in school? I would have understood physics a whole lot better if I had have known about this footage that they had. And I said to Alex, let's make a film about it. Let's put these guys back in the spotlight. And another reason I did it as well, we would go to autograph shows, and the moonwalkers would have trail of people waiting to get their autograph. The Skylab is you could talk to them for 40 minutes before somebody would tap you on the shoulder and go, oh, can I please get an autograph with you? And
or Jack Lousma. And
that's exactly how I was introduced to Jack Lousma for the first time. I think it was 2006, 2007, thereabouts. And, we started talking. I had all the time in the world to talk to them. And I thought, their story has to be told.
And I didn't know anything.
Well, Alex, so I wanted to say, how'd you get involved in this besides just being the spouse
wife
that wants her husband to be happy?
Well, I actually, he told me about the footage that he found, and he was like, this story will die with the footage because it's stored inappropriately. And the film is deteriorating and the audio is deteriorating, and no one apart from me seems to have done the work of research by the time. I think he's been doing the research over 10 years or around 10 years. And he said, well, I think the best way to do this is to make a movie. And I'm going like, yeah, he does yet another thing. He's written some books, so it's his thing. So yeah, why not? I have a budget on the side, so why not? I'll help you do this, and we might just as well go and speak to the astronauts and start the ball rolling. I was there with all the processes and how it was going, and I never really understood anything really.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from, there was the space station and it was doing something. And we, astronauts were talking and telling their stories, and I thought I understood something. But when he put the film together finally, the very, very first version that probably no one ever saw, apart from me,
Yeah.
and I was just like, are you joking? They did what? They did this, and I never heard about that. Like, how come no one knows this story? This is amazing. And I didn't even
It is.
understand what they were talking about. And it all fell into place. Now, at the time and still, my passion was always of educating in a simple way, like passing on information, complex information, simplifying it, and making it interesting to people. And I was adamant that digital world was the next step, and we needed to do it digitally. And hence, the film felt a little bit archaic from that perspective.
Uh-huh.
And yet, film, video, like what we're doing now, is an amazing medium. So I said, well, we're going to do this. And once I've seen the movie, it was like, how amazing, what an amazing story we're telling here. And how come that people never heard of it? And if they haven't, they sure should hear about it. So then he was tweaking the movie backwards and forwards, and I guess I'm the worst critic. So, because I when I don't understand something, he hears it. It's like, yeah, it's too complex, it's too technical, it's too this, it's too that. You have to redo it. So he's been redoing it. Quite a lot of times. So.
Well, you are saving half a century of knowledge here that a lot of people don't understand. The solar physics that come out of this was the bedrock of PhDs for decades coming out of there. They did, the MMU is a huge advancement that you talk about.
They learned more of solar activity in the months that they were up on Skylab than they had in the entire human history prior.
Exactly. Yeah. And Ed Gibson wrote a lot of books about that in there. We're going to look at a couple pictures of the guys here in a minute in there. But like our museum that for over 22 years is preserving the birth of America's space age right here in its delivery room, it is kind of appropriate that Skylab's final resting place and Aussie like you is taken to the forefront. Now, you both have very distinctive accents that are different from my corn-fed Ohio accent here. So where'd you grow up, Alexandra?
Well, I grew up, let's say, in Europe.
Okay.
I traveled around quite a bit.
Gypsies,
So
huh?
to-
Your
to-
family's
yeah, kind of,
gypsies?
yeah.
and-
So I lived. I grew up in Poland as a child.
Uh-huh.
So during the Skylab era, we were just laughing before the show. I was just about maybe learning to walk,
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah, well, of course, you're very young still.
yeah, very. And so I remember very much the communist times as a child. So,
Wow.
it was
forget
it
about
was quite
Americans forget
different.
about that in the Iron Curtain and so forth like
yeah.
that going on, and so.
I think we all do. I think we all have a different perception of the world. In countries that are kind of behind some kind of curtain, whatever the curtain is, and the perception of how life is there. So it's very different. It's a completely different culture at that point. But then as a youngster, I then moved out into the Western Europe, and then I traveled around, and I lived in the UK for quite a while.
Where she met me.
Well, I met
I
you.
was just going to say,
That's
you
right.
guys met at the UK, huh?
Yeah. So
All
UK was
Which town? What?
Maidstone.
Yeah.
That's where I came out to work for.
We've got Robert Laws up in Dundee, Scotland. Hey, Robert, hope you're enjoying your evening cocktail on your big screen TV. He's been watching
Cool.
us for many years up there. I know
Cheers.
he's enjoying this. Marty, we have any comments from anybody up there that is asking? We'll entertain questions from you, of course, from the producers and director of this really amazing documentary. Go to the website searching for Skylab. We have an event tomorrow with Jack Lousma and Rusty Schweickart autographing things for people. Some of you sent in some stuff. We appreciate that. This has been very much on the fly for you folks as well as us since you put it together. So I'm going to beg forgiveness from us and these people if you feel like you didn't get in time or whatever. There was a lot of stipulations by the astronauts themselves, and this is all a fluid situation, right?
Yeah.
The one thing I will say, both gentlemen are rock solid with integrity. They agreed to this, and we said it's your discretion, and they were happy with whatever we put on the table for them. So, it'll be a really entertaining visit. You'll be able to chat with them as well. Jack has a lot of stories to tell. Rusty has a lot of stories to tell.
Rusty, to me, is the planetary defender.
Yeah.
He and rock star Brian May of Queen founded the Asteroid Day for January 30th that we promote on Stay Curious every year we've been on, because I understand it completely, where the Tunguska comet or meteor leveled an incredible amount of Siberian forest. If that had erupted over Moscow, would have been leveled. It's just incredible. And Rusty, I understand, likes talking about that, even over Apollo 9. Well, one final question here to Steven-Boniecki. Now, is that, people are going to want to know, is this a hyphenation of your two names? Is this your name?
My
did you
name?
pull it out of a hat?
No,
What's going on here?
that's thanks to my father. He came out to Australia. He escaped from Poland during the Cold War.
Oh my gosh! Wow, what history you guys have.
Yeah, that's a movie unto itself as well. And he met my mother in Germany, and they were going out. I think, Mum, you'll have to text us and correct me if I'm wrong with this. After 2 weeks, he proposed to her and said, "But there's a catch. I'm going to Australia." And my mother said, "I'll come with you." And so that's how it happened. I was born in 1969 in February, so I am pre-Apollo.
Wow, Apollo moon baby, basically.
Yeah. And my father was very much into the space race. He was in awe of what the Americans were doing. Had no time for the Russians because of what they had done in Poland. And just said, I remember he had the entire recording that he did off the radio of the Australian coverage of Apollo 11. So I grew up with space, and I love watching Star Trek and Lost in Space as a kid. That was for me.
Lost in Space, that's a good one. Yeah. Well, your last name, is that?
Sorry, and coming back to the name. So he came to Australia, and because Boniecki is not it's not phonetic. When you read it, you say Boniecki, not Boniecki.
Yeah.
And so he thought, I'll make it easy for everybody. I'll put Stephen in front. Not realizing that it just dug the hole even deeper.
He just chose Stephen
Boniecki. Yeah, to make it easy for the Australians to pronounce Stephen.
What's your maiden name?
Oh, maiden name is as well Polish, but
I'm just always curious about
like,
stuff like that.
it's Ochnicka.
Okay. All right.
And
we do want to ask you this question. We're Americans, so forth. We got a lot of great people out there that are going to embrace this movie and embrace you. But I want to ask personally, what is it like to live with this situation in Ukraine going on in your backyard?
It's very close.
It's very close.
It's
when it first started, Cologne was one of the centers in Germany that took in the
refugees.
And from one day to the next, suddenly there were tents built up. She didn't see it. I came from work because I work in the center of town. And I took the train home, and I see this big tent and everything written in Ukrainian. I'm like, whoa, this is not something you're seeing on the TV. This is happening right here. When it first started, I was thinking, I am very happy I have an Australian passport, but Alex doesn't. And it was like, well, okay, what would we do in worst case scenarios? Like pack the bags and run. It thankfully didn't come to that. I think it's sort of normalized. It was disheartening as well when it all first started. We'd go outside, and normally you just see passenger airlines, and suddenly I'm seeing the AWAC NATO planes flying over, and I'm like, aha, what's going on here? It brings it home. We've gotten sort of used to it now. Yeah, no, hopefully it just.
Well, the
Yeah.
way we are in North America, isolated from just, Canada and Mexico, are our bordering countries, and that's why I ask you, when you got 10 countries in Europe that are your neighbors, literally, in an area half the size of the United States. I mean, it's sort of like, we think about you there.
Thank
I mean, I'm
I-
sure everybody wants to wish you all well on that. So,
I think one of the things that you might have heard, that the Polish people have taken a lot to the Ukrainians,
yeah.
have opened their borders in an unprecedented way and taken them home. And at the time, many of my friends were, either helping out with food or just helping out in whatever way they could. And I think the background of this is precisely the memories of the communist times. Like, we know exactly how, we were in the situation where, you didn't have your own government, but you had an imposed government. And seeing what's happening in Ukraine is just so close to heart, really. You're so close to understanding of what just happened. It's such a recent history, that we all kind of feel it still in our bones. So you kind of feel for these people with your heart. And we definitely we feel for the Ukrainians even today. I mean, I know there's various stories now brought up and whatnot, but I know that most Polish people are just really, really wishing Ukraine well and supporting. And I hope more support is coming from Poland. So, yeah,
Well,
definitely.
we thank you for being very honest and filling us in on that. You watching today got a rare glimpse into the inside of what it's like to live in Europe with conflicts, and we're very lucky that we don't here, quite frankly, outside of our own internal conflicts with things going on. Well, let's turn again to this great documentary. Let me put up a couple items. Now it's four. You see the time. Can you say another 10 minutes or so? You're okay.
We're good. We're good.
You're enjoying yourself here, I hope. We're enjoying having you here. The
Thank you.
iconic Skylab there. Anything you want to comment about? As I'm showing some pretty pictures of Tom Usiak there.
His photos are fabulous. I'm so thankful that both brothers allowed us to use their photographs. It made the world a difference to the film.
There's an awesome night shot Tom took. The Saturn 4B is being fueled. That's why you see that cloud. It was a morning launch, and there's the morning launch there. Beautiful. What'd they call that?
The milk stool.
Yeah, the milk stool there. And that's talked about. Every area of this is talked about in the documentary. So please share. I threw this picture in there. I don't think many people see this one. This is the sky. What's going on here?
Okay, they're
Dwight?
discussing how to save Skylab. What happened is the micrometeoroid
Crew one,
shield.
the first crew.
That's right. That's from left to right. In the back is Al Shepard. Then right in front is Paul Weitz. You've got Pete Conrad, commander. And on the right, you have Joe Kerwin, the first U.S. physician, or first physician actually in space.
And of course, the doctor's rocking a pipe there. Okay.
Yes, well,
back in 1970.
as we all knew back in those days, it was good for you.
Yeah, it's good for you. A little tobacco every now and then. I love that picture, particularly Pete just looking there like, okay, let's just get us something. We'll figure something out. Well, what they had to figure out, Dwight, was this.
The parasol. We also interviewed the widow of Jack Kinsler, who was the man that came up with the idea to poke the parasol through the scientific airlock port and have this thing like an umbrella protecting the space station. And unfortunately, she passed away several months ago. But
you have someone here tomorrow, right?
Yes, and Herb Baker will be here at the signing. His mother was a seamstress for NASA and actually sewed together with obviously a team, but she was chosen to be the one seated at the sewing machine in the publicity photos. So she was instrumental in helping Skylab be saved. So Herb's going to be here. More than welcome to have a chat with him about what his mother was doing. He worked for NASA as well. So no, he can't get you a job, but he will happily talk to you.
Well, here's the crew that's going to launch tomorrow when we have our big event here. The event tells who that crew is left to right there.
That's Jerry Carr on the left, commander, Ed Gibson, scientist pilot in the middle, and Bill Pogue, pilot on the right. Bill Pogue was in the flying team. What are they called? The Blue Angels, is it? Sorry, jet lag is affecting my
All right.
memory.
Red.
Blue Angels are one of those.
Somebody will correct us on the internet for sure. Sorry, mate.
Tommy's good at that.
Yeah.
UCAC, yeah. He's on that top of my errors all the time.
He wrote a book, But for the Grace of God, I think it's called. And one particular thing, it has nothing to do with Skylab, just the intuition of these guys as professionals. He said he got into one of his fighter jets, and his gut feeling was, something's not right. I shouldn't fly this plane today. And he had taxied it ready to take off. And he just said, no, I'm not flying. Took it back. The engineers looked at it and they found faults in the aircraft that could have possibly brought the plane down. And I thought, the intuition of these guys to feel that.
Yeah.
Right? He said there was no logical explanation for me to have that feeling. But I got in the plane and I knew I should not fly that thing today.
Interesting. Somebody's always looking over somebody.
Yeah. And look what he ended up on 84 days up in space.
Absolutely. There's the Skylab 3 logo that's launched 50 years ago. Ed Gibson is the only survivor of this crew, and we've got some Jerry Carr's some stuff he wore in space here. Pogue was very helpful to the museum. See the big 3 in there, okay? And I'm pointing that
now
out.
We have to talk about the numbering.
We got the 9 guys here. Marty, thank you. There's our first crew up the top, and then the second crew at the bottom, where Jack Lousma is the only survivor of that. You've got Joe Kerwin up in the middle up here, still alive. He smoked, so why wouldn't he still be alive? So, and then you got so one from each crew is alive. And we talked about this before, Dwight, and I think they get a little bit into it in your documentary, but it gets kind of compliment. Marty Winkle, who's an engineer, this is the way he looks at Skylab.
Yes, the main space station was Skylab 1. The first manned mission up there was Skylab 2, but it was the first mission, so Skylab 1, obviously. The third Skylab mission with the second crew was launched. It's also referred to as Skylab 2. And the fourth mission, which was the third manned mission, is referred to as Skylab 3. So there's 2 numbering systems. I prefer to use the SL numbering system, which is SL1, 2, 3, and 4.
Okay.
But they also have the SLM numbering system, which just refers to the manned missions, which is 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
So if you have any hassles, come and see me tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. That's perfectly done, my friend. We love that. So, well, of course, there was a lot of fun that people had about a serious situation. Okay.
Thunderbirds, sorry.
Yeah, Thunderbirds is what Pogue was on.
Yes,
Thunderbirds.
exactly.
Thank you. Not the Blue Angels.
Thank you.
Well,
thank you, Tom.
Hazel, she's a Blue Angels fan, so she was probably ready to say that too. Well, like I was saying, a lot of fun poked at a very serious situation. How many tons was this thing going to come down? We didn't know where.
70.
Yeah.
And they tried to rotate or align the spacecraft so it would slide into the atmosphere and crash into the Indian Ocean. And they miscalculated a little bit. No, nobody's fault. There's just, these things they didn't know about. This was the first time something of that size came crashing down back to Earth. And
they hadn't thought about to put a thruster engine or something like that, but it actually came down early, right?
Yeah.
Let Alex come. You know why it came down early?
I wouldn't know that much.
The irony is it came down early because the sun it was investigating was at a peak like it is now,
Right.
heated the atmosphere, and the extra drag brought it down. Just like there was about a bunch of Starlink satellites that failed to orbit because we're in a heated area of the sun. Climate change people could care less about the sun, and this heating us up more, but that's a fact there. But that's kind of cool.
All I know is what I remember from Dwight's film is Mark Pastana, who was working for NORAD at the time, who tells the story, his version or his story, where he says, well, we see this thing coming down, and we contact NASA and we say, guys, there seems to be an issue here, and they start the conversation, and he actually says that the crash itself, which we perceive as something really quite bad and quite negative, he actually says it was something amazing for us because we learned, thanks to this, how to calculate the orbit and how it comes down, and how to deal with this. So apparently great teaching program Skylab was.
Well, they weren't too far off there, and of course Chicken Little was right. As the pieces came down over Western Australia. Tell us about 50 years later. Is there still some of it out there?
Everybody, I had the opportunity to go out to Esperance for the 40th anniversary of Impact back in 2019, and I've seen that article that's now on display in the Esperance Museum. Shout out to Linda Horn. Hope we get to visit you again, and you can show us around the museum.
Linda's the curator there.
The cultural officer. And
this would be on Western
Australia.
And which is very desolate. Now, there's only a few towns even on the coast there.
When you fly over from Sydney, there's nothing, and all the local farmers. The properties out there are huge. They're like some of the size of Belgium, and.
Okay.
They say, we've got this stuff more than likely sitting out in the backyard, but I haven't got the time to go and look for it. And that article that you're seeing in that photo, that was found on a property in 1993, if I remember correctly.
And Skylab came down, refresh everybody.
In 1979. Mm-hmm. So it was sitting out there for a good, 14 years.
Wow. Well, some of that has made it to America, as this is at the Marshall's Flight Center, Huntsville. That's the Huntsville U.S. Rocket Center there. Picture I took there is pretty cool. I was going to say that Alexandra's got something, a beautiful piece of jewelry around your neck there. Let's show that off here if we can. There we are. She's got a little necklace there. What's inside that necklace without...
So Dwight knows it much better than I, but I'm being told to wear it and cherish it.
Okay.
It's, the refrigerator.
Zoom in on that, Marty, if you wouldn't mind.
Refrigerator.
Please, sir. It's really worth it. It kind of reminds you of something that you'd see an insect inside of.
Yeah.
But no, that's part of the
insulation foam from the refrigerator, was it?
Yes.
All
Yeah.
right.
And in the museum,
thank you, Marty.
They have the refrigerator, and I am certain if you plug that thing back in, it will probably work.
Really?
The robustness of the electronics for Skylab, you'll pick up a piece of like a condenser or something, and you still see the soldering and the wires with the insulation foam on these articles, and it was an amazing thing. I talk about Skylab normal people, and they're like, oh, what's that? You go to Esperance, and everybody that I had the jacket on with Skylab, and they go, oh, I remember when that came down. Yeah, I was 10 years old and playing with my brother, and we just saw all this fiberglass washing up on the shoreline. And we thought, oh, well, we'll just make stuff out of it. And they threw it away. Some people collected stuff, and it's been on their mantelpiece for the last 4 years now. And what we showed the film in the Esperance Civic Centre in their cinema, and prior to the screening, every second person that came into the theatre would just pull out a bag and go, "This is what I have from Skylab. Have a look at this." And I'm like, what?
Oh, jeez. Something else. Well, occasionally that comes up for sale on eBay and other auctions up there. We're winding up our conversation here with Dwight and Alexandra Steven-Boniecki, director and producer of Searching for Skylab. We're going to have a great event here tomorrow. We're also thrilled to see Jack Lousma, who's been in our museum before, but Rusty Schweickart hasn't. And I know there'll be some friends of his like Hazel Banks, who's probably watching. Hazel Seacack Banks was an Apollo secretary. Cool. That helps our museum out. Our godfather, Charlie Mars, he may show up here to see his buddy Jack Lousma and Rusty. So we're going to have a big day here. Get in line early. Doors open at 10. Autograph session starts at 11 to 11:45. Anything everybody needs to know about that?
No, just be on your best behaviour. These guys are legends.
Yeah.
My autograph is quite expensive, so
There you go.
just be advised beforehand. Um,
I'm going forward. All right.
then afterwards, we've got a screening of the film in the Kennedy Space Center Visitors Center
Yes.
in their IMAX theater.
No, that's part of the admission ticket there, right? So.
Correct. Yes.
Yes, yes.
But which is $75, I think, and annual pass is 125, something like that. 150. All right, 150, Marty. So, question and answer beforehand, right
Yes.
out there. So, well, I wanted to wind this up with y'all because you've been gracious to spend 45 minutes with us here on Stay Curious. Marty, any questions from anybody out there?
No, no questions.
Well, before you go, I want to show you. I am sending you home with a couple things. Look at this little beauty here that we'll send you
Oh,
home with that
wow.
little Wheaton canister there.
Is it going to be filled with beverages?
Well, you can fill it up with whatever you want. I think Alex is looking at a nice little flower vase there.
I think Dwight has knows about a
little-
Skylab drink, and I think that
well,
drink
you can
will
put
make it
you
in
can put
there.
a cork in that, I guess. But,
There
oh, look, our
It's
green screen. This is a
beautiful.
Wheaton
we're gonna do this.
Skylab thing there.
Yeah.
And so that's just one of the few things that we're going to send you home with
you
from our little
legends.
collection of stuff
That is-
here.
There is a Skylab cocktail.
Oh, there
you
is
can,
there?
You can find
Yeah.
the recipe, and
It's strong.
it hits as hard as Skylab would have.
What's the alcoholic?
I don't know if we. If we
Skylab
remember.
cocktail.
Yeah, it's-
Yeah.
I'll look that up, but we'll have some fun.
we do
with
not
that.
condone drinking of underage people.
There you
It's,
go. That's right.
social
There are Europeans
service announcement.
afterwards, so if you're 15 at the Italian pasta table, I guess you'll be maybe
Don't
having a
listen.
glass of red wine. But hey, I've really
Thank
enjoyed
you.
meeting you
Thank you
folks.
so
As we were talking, they were in our today. They've been here most of the day, and you even attended our staff meeting, so we could go over some details of the things. So we are really happy to make your acquaintance, both of you, Alex. There,
Thank you so
just
much.
delightful. Dwight,
Thank you.
and
Nice to finally
thank
be
you.
on the show. I've watched a number of episodes. Never quite catch it live because of the timing.
Well, you're too kind, but no, you can watch it anytime on YouTube.
Exactly, and that's what I do.
And the live part is just so we can structure me making sure I show up every day for it. So, but no, we're quite blessed to have people like you. You know, I had you sign our guest list thing over there. We're just blown away. There's about 50 guests or more we've had on this year, and more coming down the pipe, as we got a big weekend ahead of us. Not only do we have astronaut Rusty Schweickart and Jack Lousma here Thursday, we're going to have Nicole Stott here Saturday from 1 to 3, autographing her beautiful book. I'm looking around for Nikki's book here somewhere. Here it is, right here. Back to Earth. In fact, I'm going to buy you guys a copy of this book. Wish I could get her to autograph beforehand. Wish she won't be here till Saturday. Nicole Stott, 104 Days in Space, wrote a beautiful book here about global warming and what she learned about Earth, that we need to be crewmates on Earth, Dwight and Alex, not passengers.
Well, Jerry Carr said in a downlink at the very last crew conference they did that, you know, that humans live in a temperate zone. Just that it made them realize they have to take care of the Earth. And this was back in 1973, and we were talking about it the other day with the reports they were sending back down. They were studying Hurricane Brenda, and I think Hurricane Christine. Tom, Mark, correction, please.
We'll get it.
And they were starting this. What's the word in English? Now I'm speaking German. The what's the environmental awareness?
Right. Global
yeah.
warming, climate change.
They were analyzing the Gulf Stream. They were analyzing the movement of plankton in the oceans.
Yeah.
They were looking at how certain foliage was changing over the course of the time they were up there. They were looking at desert regions. They were studying the hurricanes. They were doing a lot of looking down back on Mother Earth. So that's where it all started.
What
Yeah.
I find, sorry, just quickly, what
Yeah.
I found amazing is that we were told by one of the astronauts in Europe that allegedly 40% of all the information collected by Skylab has never been analyzed simply because we don't have enough scientists
Well, really?
to this day. So it's quite incredible how much more information there is probably still buried
Yes,
that
there
maybe we
is.
can use and do something with as well for climate change and analyzing and comparing whatnot, that we just simply don't know about. So shout out to all the scientists and future scientists.
Future scientists could be you.
That's right.
Could
Well,
you might find there
it's
something.
people like you, documentary makers, and other people that are investigating things to unearth good things that we can keep bringing forward. Skylab lives on 50 years later with the science
Certainly does.
that is helping create the bedrock for so much data that we have now from orbiting satellites that mimic what Skylab did. It's 3 crucial missions, 28 days, 56, and then 84. And it was quite an amazing thing 50 years ago. And this documentary is a beautiful way to go. It will be broadcast, and we'll put a slide together so you guys can order it. And you'll have to print some more there, folks. So,
Yep.
well, thank you for being here.
Thank you for your
Okay.
interest.
And we look forward to a big event tomorrow. Thank you all for watching today. Any parting shots to the UCX or anybody out there? Go right ahead.
I'm watching you.
Okay. Marty, any final? Oh, yeah, give me the list there of who was watching today there. We were talking to some of them. Thank you there, Mr. Winkle. Cynthia Rossi. Cynthia's going to be here tomorrow. I'm not sure. Doug Forrest is a artist and involved in the industry in Los Angeles out there. We'll show you some of his beautiful pencil drawings. Mark Usiak, Bill Walling, Dave Stange, and his granddaughter are watching. Thank you, Dave. His granddaughter's our youngest fan up there in, it's a state north of Ohio. I don't know my geography very good, but it's that state above north.
May I just quickly say,
It's Michigan, and we're rivals. So
for young girls, what we found quite accidentally, that young girls seem to absolutely love this movie. As young as 8 years old, they became our biggest fans, and we didn't even know that was an audience that would be so passionate about Skylab and the story itself.
well, there you
So,
go.
Thank you for all the girls watching out there.
Carlton Bailey's watching. He's a rocket photographer around here, over almost 700 launches. You ever met Carlton? Well, Gary Gerald is our Vidalia onion farmer and peanut farmer in Georgia. Cliff Watson in Pomona, Australia. Where's your mommy at now?
Tamworth.
All right. So say hi, Mom. Clyde Lewis is watching. That's a new name. Clyde, one of your friends? We do get people. Thank you for watching, Clyde. And tell your
I
friends.
think it's from Australia.
All right, another one from Australia. How's your brekkie going on there this morning, huh? Well,
Eat your veggie bite. Have your veggie bite.
That's right. So everybody enjoy a wonderful rest of the day here today. Thank you so much,
Thank you very much.
Dwight and
We'll see you-
Alexandra Steven-Boniecki. And we and it why? And you saying what out there?
See you tomorrow if you're coming by. It'd be great to chat to you.
And the way I always go out is we can't wait to see you in our museum to bridge the space between us.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Bye.